439 for takeout, and explore their full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Matt McNeil Show. Although you know this is not Matt McNeil, you are listening to me, Ellie Krug, the host of The Illegal Trans Woman, filling in for Matt. And I am thrilled to be talking to you, thrilled to be able to fill in and do my part to help Matt out while he's taking some time off. And I don't ordinarily do 2-hour shows, but I am psyched about doing a 2-hour show for you. And we've got quite a lineup. I've got a number of guests. I've got a lot of things I want to talk to you about, things that are breaking in the news right now. But to begin with, I've got a guest on who I want to talk about some reporting from the Minnesota Reformer. We have Alyssa Chin here with us. Hi, Alyssa. How are you?
Good. Hi, Ellie. Thanks for having me. How's it going?
It's just great to see you. Alyssa is a Minnesota Reformer data reporter with a focus on healthcare policy. She previously was a research assistant in health policy at Harvard Medical School, and she graduated from Harvard with a degree in statistics. And that's why I'm having you here, because Alyssa, you and Madison McMahon, who both write for the Minnesota Reformer, which is this wonderful, wonderful, streetwise publication online. You wrote this piece that dropped on March 31st about the number of arrests that took place during the metro surge that Minnesota experienced, the Twin Cities specifically. But I live out in Carver County. We had ICE out in Carver County as well. And you went back and looked at some data from an organization named the Portion Data Project, which I want you to explain. And you came up with some data about the number of people that were taken and the types of countries, the number of different countries where they were taken from. So tell us about first the Deportation Data Project and share your reporting with us, please.
Yeah, that's right. So the Deportation Data Project is a group of academics and lawyers who have been collecting data on immigration arrests, detentions, and deportations for a while now. Part of their work involves suing the government for data, basically. So it's kind of tough to get good government records from ICE, as you can imagine. And so during the Operation Metro Surge, which in Minnesota lasted from December to February, we kind of struggled to get any amount of, it was really hard to get any insight into how many arrests were being made. And the Data Deportation Project at the time only had data going up to October, which was before the surge began. So last week they got new data from ICE and then released it to the public, which is why you might be seeing a lot of news articles these days talking about how many arrests. This is happening not just in Minnesota, but, I was reading an article out of New York today talking about how many arrests ICE has been making over the past couple months, and that's because we got this new data.
Okay. And if people want to access the data, the Deportation Data Project, can they just Google that and will they be able to find it?
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's really interesting. They have a website. It's pretty accessible in terms of data access. They have an online search tool that you can use.
Wonderful. All right, so let's get to your reporting. So you go through this data, and what did you find about the, ICE-related, DHS-related arrests here? It's in Minnesota, right? Or did you just cover the Twin Cities?
Yeah, in Minnesota overall. Okay. And another issue with, there's various missingnesses in the data, ways in which it's incomplete that is also, pretty laid out in the website. But one is that we looked at arrests happening in Minnesota, but not every row had the state that the arrest was made in. So we identified 3,700 arrests made in Minnesota since the beginning of December, which was the beginning of the surge. I think there were a couple high level takeaways that we got from that number. One is that only 3% of those arrests were Somali people. And keep in mind that at the beginning of the surge, Trump was saying that they were trying to target Somali people in Minnesota, and that's what the surge was for. But in the end, even when that started, we reported that most Somali people in Minnesota are citizens, and in the end, only 3% of them were in the arrests, and it was mostly from Latin American countries. So people from Ecuador.
Well, and I'm interrupting you, but your reporting has this wonderful graph on it, and chart. And out of the 3,800 arrests, only 99 that according to your reporting, were Somali.
That we could identify, right?
You could identify, sure. But the vast majority, you said, were from Ecuador. Is that right?
Not necessarily the vast majority, but that was the top country of origin for people who were arrested.
Okay.
But yes, the vast majority from Latin American countries, for sure.
I would expect somebody familiar with statistics to make sure that I am accurate in the way that I say things. Okay, thank you for that. So, and I'm looking at at the chart. It was 1,041 folks from Ecuador that you were identified as part of the 3,800.
Right.
And that surprised me. I mean, I did not know that Ecuadorians were so well represented in the undocumented community or the immigrant community here in Minnesota. And then, of course, and then coming in second were folks identified from being from Mexico at 876. So one of the things that I found fascinating about your reporting is that we had in Minnesota, it was calculated 130,000 undocumented folks before Operation Metro Surge, around that number. Am I right?
I am actually not sure of the number.
Okay. All right. Well, I
trust you on that.
I think I got that from your report. Okay. From your reporting. That's all right. Don't worry about it. But you also compared you also compared to Texas, which has 1.6 million undocumented people.
Right.
And what did you find in terms of the comparison between arrests? Because your reporting also documents the daily number of arrests that were taking place during Operation Metro Surge.
Right. So we found that, throughout Texas has far more arrests, and that's what you would expect given that they have over 10 times the amount. Sorry, I'm like checking myself real time, over 10 times the amount of undocumented immigrants. I think that there's like the rate, I think you pointed this out, the ratio between the number of arrests to undocumented immigrants is very different in Minnesota and Texas. In Minnesota, they were arresting undocumented people at a much higher rate during the surge.
Right. And which, of course, raises the question. Now, you're a reporter, and I know you only deal with facts, but I mean, for me, raises the question about all the political, targeting of Minnesota by the Trump administration, why we even had Operation Metro Surge to begin with. And it's just, I think that your reporting seems to certainly bear out that, and this again, my interpretation of the reporting, that it was, obviously highly political. We knew that going into it. And thank God it has ebbed, but not entirely, because there are still more ICE agents in Minnesota, according to your reporting, than what we had at the beginning of before the surge began. Am I right about that?
It is not entirely clear at this moment how many ICE agents there are, but yes, and this is because the number has kind of been changing. What people say has kind of been changing. I think the last figure that I kept updated with was early March. Kristi Noem said that there were, I want to say, 650 agents left, Homeland Security agents left, whereas normally there are 150. But that figure may have changed since then. But yeah, it's true that was after the surge was supposed to have ended, which was, mid-February or so.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things, because on a national basis, people heard about Minneapolis and St. Paul, but they didn't understand, I think, clearly as much that the surge was going on throughout all of Minnesota. I mean, I live in Carver County, 40 miles west of the Twin Cities. ICE was out there every day, multiple cars, making multiple. It was, I mean, there was great fear out in Carver County about ICE, about people being taken.
Did you
And
witness ICE out in Carver County?
absolutely, they were in Carver County. Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right. Well, lastly, your data does not, and this the deportation data project doesn't have data about U.S. citizens being arrested by ICE. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so we don't know to what extent they were making arrests of U.S. citizens, making mistakes, or deliberately. I mean, I know certainly from my experience, they were, taking U.S. citizens who were observers and arresting them.
Yeah, there are definitely like several documented instances of immigration agents arresting U.S. citizens who are observing and detaining them at, the Whipple Federal Building for a couple hours.
So what's next in terms of your reporting? What are you going to do relative to this data, or what are you looking forward to from other data from the government? And in the end, I mean, this maybe not be a reporter's question, but how are we going to heal here in the Twin Cities from all of this?
And the question of healing, I think, is a tough one. My observation is that there's already been a lot of sort of community support and actions that have like arisen throughout the search. And so one thing that we want to pay more attention to is kind of how those networks are going to be used after the search has died down. In terms of reporting from the data, definitely I'm excited to keep looking at it. It's very rich. We just looked at arrests for this piece. There's also data on detentions and deportations.
Okay. Well, in the end, it was all just so horrible. And I have not met a person who wasn't, emotionally feeling what was going on in our state. So, well, Alyssa, I just want to compliment you on your reporting. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing, and just keep it up. Okay, I look forward to seeing more of your work in the Minnesota Reformer as well as Madison's, and I just really appreciate you being on the Matt McNeil Show while I am substitute hosting.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's great to talk.
Okay, all right. Well, and good luck to you, and just thanks.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, we'll be back in a moment. We're going to take a break. I need to make sure, because this is the way it works, to say a shout out to our affiliates, WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle, and BAM, Blue Amp Media at blueamp.com on Substack. We'll be back in a second.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Hey, it's Patrick. April showers are coming, and with them, they're bringing big savings all month long from our cleaning heroes at Zero Res. A lot of people out there understandably have held off on having their carpets cleaned during the messy winter season, but now that we're headed into the height of spring cleaning, bookings are going to start to fill up fast, so don't wait. It's time to step into a fresher, cleaner home this spring with Zero Res. Spring is a time for renewal. Let Zero Res help refresh your home with clean carpets, fresh floors, and improved air quality. Zero Res can remove winter's buildup and odors, preparing your home for the brighter days ahead. So don't wait and don't miss this deal. Right now it's buy one room of carpet cleaning, get another room of carpet done for free for as many rooms as you want, plus $599 on a whole system air duct cleaning. This deal won't last long. Go to ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZERO-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Zero Res.
With Easter coming, Popped Corn, that's Popped corn.com, has all the flavors to put a smile on everyone's face. Popped Corn has many delicious flavors to choose from, like cheese made with real cheese, caramel, kettle corn, cinnamon toast, or try one of their great mixes like Windy City featuring cheese and caramel. Their new flavor of the month is everything but the bagel, and they can ship their popcorn across the USA. Go to popcorn.com, enter the discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at popcorn, POPPED corn.com.
At Big Hill Books, the story doesn't begin with a book. It begins with the people who place it in your hands. A corporate pro who followed fate into bookstore ownership. A moth-studying fantasy lover curating shelves with care. An author who still reads Judy Blume. A romance-loving environmentalist who sings classic rock. A horror book club host chasing diverse bookshelves. A bookkeeper who left accounting for her dream job. Here, you're not shopping an algorithm. You're joining a community. Big Hill Books. Read, think, grow. Hey everyone, it's Ellie Krug, the host of The Illegal Trans Woman here on lovely AM 950. Now you know our show is about advocating for transgender and non-binary people. And let me tell you, in the political climate that's going on right now, we have a lot to talk about. I have exciting news. Effective immediately, our show is moving to 3 o'clock on Saturdays on AM 950. Plus, you'll always be able to find it on podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. So join me, The Illegal Trans Woman, 3 o'clock Saturdays. And we're back. The Matt McNeil Show, Ellie Krug. I love hearing my voice on the commercials. Hey, I'm just thrilled to be here and thrilled to be talking to you. And Matt is like my hero. He's just, these shoes are just, this chair I'm in is way too big for me. So, but I'm trying my best and I hope that you're putting up with it. Okay. On that less than positive note, let's talk about what's going on right now. Because I don't get to do this very often, talk about contemporary events that are not related to the trans community. And I want to talk about Pete Hegseth. I'm talking to you right now. We are searching, as far as I can tell, in Iran for one of our flyers in a plane that was shot down by Iran in a country where supposedly there were no more air defenses. I'm also reading that that's not the only plane we lost. Today we lost the first plane, an F-15. We lost an A-10 Warthog. Somewhere they've rescued that pilot. They're not telling us whether that was to enemy fire or not. And then we have Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. I'm not going to say war, who is doing this horrible stuff to our military. You recall last fall when he brought in all of the generals from across the world to essentially tell them that they have to lose weight, that they have to look a certain way. I think he made it to the rank of major. And he is now ordering people who have devoted their entire lives, their entire careers. And he's culling the leadership ranks of the military. In a story filed on NBC News on the 2nd of April by Gordon Lubold and Courtney Kuby, there's reporting about how Hegseth fired General Randy George, who's the Army Chief of Staff. Apparently, at least the reporting is that the firing occurred because General George pushed back on Hegseth's attempts to cull the leadership ranks of Black and female generals, female leaders, because Hegseth has this thing where he's got this, quote, war on woke, unquote, and he is going after generals and leadership in the military who supported, who during COVID supported wearing masks and who, were advocates for DEI in a military. This is a military where and so the reporting is that he blocked 2 Black Marine generals and a female general candidate. These are candidates. Apparently the names go to a board. The board then makes recommendations to the Army Chief General, and but Hegseth is cutting the list and keeping those generals, those military leaders from going forward. Now, according to the reporting from NBC News, data from 2024 shows that 80% of active duty members of the military are male, 67% are white, 18% are black. Roughly 80% of active duty officers are male, and overall, 74% of officers are white, only 9% black. 9% black officers where you have 18%, give or take, of the military that is black. Okay, so these soldiers, these service members are not being fully represented by their leadership. And Hegseth is going to great pains to call the military of anybody other than, it sounds like, white men. And I'm going to guess it's probably white straight men. We know that it's all cisgender men because they've already taken out of the ranks somewhere in the vicinity of 10,000 transgender service members. Those service members have been or are in the process of being drummed out. So this military is becoming more and more unrepresentative of what the service members are in the military and in our country. And this is not good for our country, particularly at the time. I mean, he fires the Army Chief of Staff while we're in the middle of a war, and it is a war. Okay? It is absolutely a war. I am just appalled by this guy. I don't know about you, but I can't stand to listen to him. I mean, he gets up there and it does the press conference with, General Raisin Kane, and Hegseth is full of bluster, full of saying all these kinds of things, including saying most recently that the skies over Iran were essentially clear of any kind of anti-aircraft defenses, such that Hegseth talked about sending B-52 bombers, which are like magnets for anti-aircraft missiles, over Iran. And of course, today we learned that they shot down one of our most advanced fighters, an F-15 jet. And they've rescued one of the pilots, but we don't know, as I speak right now, about the other aviator. I hope that we find that aviator, but it's just, it's gotten to the point where I just don't believe anything coming out of the mouth of Pete Hegseth, and don't even get me started on Donald Trump, or the senior leadership of the military, because you cannot believe anything that they say. And it's not the way it's supposed to be. We're in the middle of a war. We're supposed to be able to rely on the information coming out of our government about a war in which we are investing $1 billion every day, a war in which we are killing Iranians, remember the schoolgirls, a war in which we've lost, I think, 13 service members, and a war in which Donald Trump this week, and I've got somebody else to come on later on the show to talk about Trump's speech on Wednesday night, but Donald Trump claiming that we've already won this war. And the reality is we're nowhere close to winning anything. I think we're close to losing a whole lot of things. The Iranians, they've been around a lot longer than us, us white and black Americans. And they know how to persevere. They do. And so I just got to tell you, I have great trepidation, particularly with Pete Hegseth as our Secretary of Defense. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I've got Tom Lee to come on and talk about Target Corporation and how it has receded and run away. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug sitting in for Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Hi, Matt McNeil here. You're listening to the best progressive radio in Minnesota. It's AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
In an era defined by fear and silence, one woman dared to stand alone against the tide. Theater in the Round Players presents Conscience, the inspiring true story of Senator Margaret Chase Smith. In 1950, Smith became the first woman to challenge McCarthyism on the Senate floor. This powerful drama captures her courageous declaration of conscience, a moment of political integrity that resonates deeply today. Witness this stirring portrait of moral courage from March 27th through April 19th. Tickets and more information at theaterintheround.org.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, our job is to help you find a place for fire. Our displays include over 180 models in diverse styles, and we have over 35 burning displays. Come and experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Some say there are only two seasons in Minnesota: road construction and winter. Hi, this is Laura, and I agree there are two seasons in Minnesota: summer and fireplace season. I bought my wood stove for Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces in 2005, and every season after summer comes the time when we fire up the wood stove, get out our favorite music, and discover the warmth of fire. Our dog Pumpkin remembers the fire too. He stations himself right there, legs up in the air, just enjoying the warmth of the fire. With the wood stove, we are able to keep the main area of the house toasty warm, while the thermostat is set at an energy-efficient 64 degrees. Discover your fireplace season. Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
At Schroman Law, we provide more than just legal documents. We walk alongside our clients to ensure their wishes and legacies are being honored with every choice. And we do this while recognizing that this process can be emotional and weighty. Our team includes attorneys, as well as a grief coach and a published writer ready to assist with legacy letters and extra wishes to go alongside your healthcare directive. Contact us today to learn more at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Step into Forts, a fort-building wonderland at Children's Theater Company, only through April 5th. Theatrical elements, evolving light and soundscapes, and towers of cardboard boxes set the scene for creative play. Build the tallest fort, the longest fort, or tons of cozy little forts. Design a castle or a neighborhood. Your imagination leads the way as you play freely and create shared stories together in real life. Forts at CTC only through April 5th. Spring break weekdays available. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for rain throughout today with a high near 41. Tonight, more rain with a low around 33. And Saturday, cloudy with a high around 39. For bold Szechuan and Mandarin dishes, try the Great Wall Restaurant. From sesame chicken to Peking duck, there's something for everyone that enjoys Chinese cuisine. Visit 4515 France Avenue South or call 952-927-4439 for takeout and explore their full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
And we're back. Ellie Krug sitting in for Matt McNeil on the wonderful Matt McNeil Show. And I'm just progressing here, trying to fill big shoes. And I'm thrilled that I've got an interview with Tom Lee. Tom Lee is a local writer and freelance journalist. He is the author of the Bruce Lee Code and Rebuilding Empires, how Best Buy and other retailers are transforming and competing in the digital age of retailing. Tom Lee, welcome to the Matt McNeil Show. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So, Tom, I wanted to have you on because in the Minnesota Reformer, in a piece dated March 30th, you wrote about Target. You actually wrote a wonderful piece. It's titled, quote, How Target Lost Its Nerve and Then Lost Its Business, unquote. And so I wanted to have you on. Give us a little bit of a background about Target. And you call it an aspirational retailer. And what does that mean? And how does that play into Target losing its nerve as you see it?
Well, yeah, so I think it's kind of best to understand Target. Sometimes it helps to kind of compare it to Walmart, which many people often do. So with Walmart, they have a very simple model, which is everyday low pricing. So that's pretty much it. That works in any sort of situation, whether it's bad economy, good economy, whatever. What I mean by Target being an aspirational retailer is that the very things that it's good at, such as those kind of limited partnership collectors editions with designers like Michael Graves and Lily Pulitzer and all that. It depends. They're trying to pitch to people that you too can aspire to a better lifestyle, that you can have affordable joy, you can have affordable style without, spending tons of money on things like Louis Vuitton and all that. And so it's sort of like I may not be able to afford a rich lifestyle, but I can aspire to one, right? But that really depends, for that to work, that really depends on, to be really honest, to be in a good mood, to have a baseline level of stability but also confidence. Target needs to display that they have cultural confidence and optimism, because that's the whole point. You go to the store, it's bright and shiny and all that, and you're in a good mood to shop. So how does this relate to the story? Well, to be an aspirational retailer, you need a lot of things to go right. Well, Walmart doesn't need a whole lot of things to go right, but it needs a specific set of conditions to succeed. And so when it starts getting defensive, like it has been since COVID, when it starts getting negative, when it starts feeling like it's pulling back because of fear, that's when it doesn't really work for them anymore. They're really undermining their own core model.
When did you notice that they started to pull back on certain things? I mean, I'm transgender, so I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community. I noticed certainly when they started to pull back on things. When did you, as a professional looking at this industry, see that they started to pull back, and what were they saying about why?
Well, it's one of the most bizarre sort of things, because like you said, I covered them for a while, and just the pullback was so complete and really mind-boggling. So this all happened in I believe it was 2023, and as you know, that the country was just emerging from COVID and the global pandemic, right? So then one day, this is I think in May of 2023, Brian Cornell, the then CEO of Target, he makes this really weird, surprising announcement saying that, right before they announced their earnings, he said, we might have to close stores because there's a lot of shoplifting going on in our stores, right? And he even quantified, he said, I think it's costing us over $1 billion a year. So he was talking about organized kind of retail shoplifting gangs and all that. And to me, that was that just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. And then right after that, just the week after, and this is where you're probably interested in it, that's when they made the announcement that we're going to pull some items off their gay pride collection, because they were worried that they were getting threats from apparently right-wing extremists that they were going to attack employees and customers. So to kind of essentially appease them, they pulled off some of the more controversial items. So that was this happened within a span of 2 weeks, all the way back in 2023. So
wow. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, of course, I don't keep track of the industry like you do, but that's a lot to happen within the span of a couple of weeks. And you write in your piece, a quote, pressured by a cascade of events, the pandemic, social unrest, inflation, hyper-partisanship, the country began chasing stability instead of protecting continuity, the cultural identity that made the company successful in the first place. Say a little bit more about that. I mean, what do you mean by cultural identity? And, and before you answer, I'm just going to tell you, as somebody from the, involved living in the LGBTQ plus community, the thing I always loved about Target was that they were allies, that they were very clearly allies. I mean, you don't know this, but back in 2015, 2016, when there was in 2016, when there was the thing about HB2 in North Carolina, and there was all this pushback, and Target came out with an announcement and said that transgender people can use the bathrooms in our stores that align with gender identity. Tom, that touched me so much. I created a thank you note, and I stood outside the entranceway to Target headquarters in the Skyways, and as people came in, I gave them thank you notes. This
Yeah.
note saying thank you. Okay, so I had a personal kind of affinity for Target. And then when they went backwards, okay, then that started to fade. Tell me more about what you see.
I can only begin to imagine the betrayal that the community felt from what they did. So the best way I could put it is that Target is built to, like I told you, to inspire, right? That they're built to aspire and inspire. But that kind of seems to work when times are going relatively well. Now, we can always find something wrong that's going on any particular day. But compare that behavior, and we'll talk about like George Floyd. So after the George Floyd incident, they stepped up. They said, we're going to do all these DEI kind of programs. But that's why it was important to what you just read, that all this stuffs are happening at the same time. This post-COVID backlash, this hyper-partisanship, all this started happening. So Target does very well when times are relatively okay or good. Not so much when we're seeing so many things going wrong per se, or there's a lot of tension or a lot of division in the country. It just doesn't seem to be built for that. It doesn't seem to be built to be resilient in the face of adversity, to be honest with you.
So, I mean, you walk into Target because they've got their section for homes, with very, nice things that are not all that expensive. It seems to offer you a little cachet, and you're going to get something and bring
Target, all that.
Target brings some pillows back that ordinarily maybe you wouldn't buy and spruce up the couch and all of that stuff. But if you're worried about whether or not the country's going to go down the tubes, and you're worried about whether you can afford the grocery section of Target, that stuff, people just aren't buying that stuff, right?
No, and when you mentioned that we're talking about inflation, that remember after COVID, the whole supply system that's shut down, and when it restarted, there was too much demand, enough supply, and Target has never been good, honestly, at stocking its shelves full of grocery items, right? So you're talking about inflation. You're also talking about economic anxiety that I might not want to buy the things that cost a little bit more at Target because I'm more worried about basic necessities. That's what I mean, is that this is the atmosphere that when they started pulling back, is that they said they were pressed on the economic side, they were pressed on the political side, they were pressed on the societal side, crime, inflation, and they cracked like a couple of eggs, really. So
well, I mean, and you raise a question about really how bad was the crime, because there was no reports to local police, no reports to the FBI asking for assistance with these things.
Or at least they didn't say they did it. They just said they didn't want to talk about it. But I did note that in terms of the crime, like I said, Brian Cornell was like, oh my God, we're going to have to close stores because all these shoplifters, they never mentioned it again after that.
Really?
So you draw your own conclusions from that. So.
Well, and then in your reporting, you talk about how Target, so I just referenced 2016 standing up for transgender people, when it was, politically viable to do that. But we get to the surge, here in the Twin Cities. And, I wanted to have you on because Target is all across the country. I mean, everybody knows about Target stores. But here in the Twin Cities, I mean, they had 2 of their employees in the Richfield store, literally arrested by ICE. These are kids. These were teenagers. ICE is arresting. I mean, and did Target even make a statement about that? Did Target even?
They didn't. And I'll say the word because I think it deserves to be heard. I think they were cowards. Because when you think about it, the whole shoplifting incident and then pulling items from the gay pride, they said they were doing that because they were worried about the safety of employees and consumers. If they were worried about it, why did they step up then? They said that all that was about the employees and the customers and being safe. They didn't say anything, not one thing.
And so, you have Target pulling back, and then you have, people, many in my circle are boycotting Target. They're not going back to Target, even though Target seems to have tried to make some inroads back, some bringing back Black customers, and I'm glad that they've done that. They met with, leaders of the Black, national Black community a couple of weeks ago. But people they're just not motivated to go back to Target and shop there. Now, can we contrast all of what we've been talking about with Costco? Okay. And listeners, I just want you to know I'm a Costco member, just so you know that. But Costco, the Trump administration comes along. They start issuing the executive orders against all kinds of things. Okay. Certainly against DEI. And Costco's board of directors say, we're not going to change what we're doing. We're not going to change the way that we hire. We're not going to change the way that we promote, that we encourage people from, different marginalized communities, that we're focusing on them. What's the story? Why Costco and not Target?
Well, one company has guts, the other one doesn't. But it's not just it's not even a morality thing. It's a smart business strategy. Think about it this way. Why would Target pull off its items from the gay pride collection to appease who? Because they think that the people who hate Target is something that comes shopping there. It's like you play to your base. You already have these group of customer segments that already love you and they're really loyal, and you alienate them to appease a group of people that will never love you. So Costco was smart. It's not just about morality. They're like, where are we doing well? What we're doing? Why should we change that?
Right,
so that's why I'm ripping down my hair. I'm like, what's going on here, man?
But me hearing that about Costco made me have a closer affinity to them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna certainly.
And here's the thing about it. You talked about the boycott. I'm normally a skeptic about like how people say boycotts impact companies, or we made their share price go down a couple of cents. It takes a lot to materially move a company's finances, impact it. But this particular case, oh my God, that's why I'm so shocked. They are really hurting.
They're losing money.
Three straight years, their annual sales revenue has fallen. The first time that's happened since they were founded in 1962. So clearly something's happening. So you do the math, and I'm astounded that this had such a huge impact. And it goes to show you they should have stuck to who they are and who their customers are. So.
Well, Tom, I'll tell you, I could continue to talk with you about this, and there's stuff that we haven't gotten to, but I've got to watch my time here. I really appreciate your reporting. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me. It's fascinating about how Target has gone backwards. And so everyone, check out Tom Lee, his article, How Target Lost Its Nerve and Then Lost Its Business in the Minnesota Reformer. Tom, thanks for being on the show. Take care, will you?
Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, listener, you're listening to me, Ellie Krug, filling in for Matt McNeil. We'll be back in a second.
Delivering tresses to the stars. Where day or travel shame you into nobody.
Hey, it's Tom Hartman from my friends at All Energy Solar, and I want to talk about something most people don't consider until it's too late. Energy independence isn't just about saving money. It's also about what happens when the grid goes down. Severe weather, aging infrastructure, unexpected outages, they happen, and when they do, most homes go dark. But not homes with solar and battery backup from All Energy Solar. Here's what makes it work. Solar panels charge the battery during the day, so when a storm hits or the grid fails, your home stays powered. Lights, refrigerator, medical equipment, whatever matters most keeps running. All Energy Solar is certified by both Tesla and Enphase for battery storage and has been installing complete solar plus battery systems since 2009. Minnesota battery rebates are also available. Don't wait for the next outage to wish you had acted. Visit allenergysolar.com or call 800-620-3370 for your free evaluation today.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Your time is precious. Why are you still mowing your own lawn? I'm Alex Knorr, a young, hardworking entrepreneur serving the Southwest Metro with affordable lawn care. At Buzzcut Mowing, I offer weekly mowing, leaf cleanups, aeration, dethatching, tree trimming, and mulch installation. I work hard so you can relax and enjoy time with family and friends. Call today and I'll handle the rest. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com. That's buzzcutmowingmn.com.
History Theater brings you Hungry Like the Wolf, a fresh comedy that weaves together history, humor, and meaningful social themes, all set against a memorable 80s backdrop with a love for Duran Duran. This lively production dives into labor rights and gender equity, featuring a cast of eccentric and bold characters. Get ready for an experience like no other at History Theater. Catch the exciting performances from March 19th to April 12th at the History Theater in downtown St. Paul. Grab your tickets today at historytheater.com.
And we're back
to be no slave.
on the Matt McNeil Show. Ellie Krug from the Illegal Trans Women sitting in for Matt, trying to sit in the big chair today. And so there was a story that came up this week that I found this week. It may relate to last week. And I want to begin by just telling you something. All right. I mean, I'm a product of school in the 60s and the early 70s. And education, a little in New Jersey, a lot in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And all of that time, I knew a little bit about how America enslaved people, how enslaved people lived in America, but I did not know how bad it really was. We just didn't get taught it. Okay. And of course, if you listen to the Trump administration now, and certainly in Florida and some other places and Texas, they won't talk about, how white people enslaved black people and brown people. But it was when, as I got older, certainly as I became a lawyer, and certainly once the 1619 Project came out, you may remember that, where they talked, where that highlighted the fact that the first enslaved Americans were brought to, first enslaved people were brought to America. They weren't Americans, they weren't citizens, brought to our country in 1619, and gave you some idea about how long enslaved people had been in America before the country was founded, certainly before the Civil War. And certainly, you throw in Jim Crow after that. It gives you an idea about the industry around enslaving and selling humans, particularly black humans. And so what caught my attention was a report in NBC News. It was actually reprinting a report from the Associated Press about the UN General Assembly adopting a resolution declaring that trafficking of enslaved Africans constituted, quote, the gravest crime against humanity. The resolution called for reparations as a concrete step to remedying historical wrongs. Now, this was put up to a vote. And the reason I'm telling you about this is about how far our country has fallen. How incredibly far America, the United States, from what I was taught, as a school child, a school teenager, about what we stood for. there was a vote on this resolution. It was adopted, but there are 193 members of the UN World Body, and the resolution was voted in 123 to 5. Excuse me, 123 to 3. Sorry, with 52 abstentions. Do you know what countries voted against that resolution, calling the trafficking of enslaved humans the greatest crime against humanity? Do you know the countries that voted against it? Argentina, Israel, and the United States. Now, there were a number of abstentions, as I said, 52, and that included the United Kingdom and all 27 members of the European Union. They abstained. Okay, we voted against it, and I certainly wouldn't wanted us to have even abstained. But it tells you how far America had. The vote was on International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, which honors the memory of about 13 million African men, women, and children enslaved over several centuries. I mean, it's a non-binding resolution. It essentially is aspirational. It essentially is saying this is what we stand for as a world body. But the United States, this country is supposedly the greatest place on the earth. I'm so sick of hearing that, frankly. Couldn't vote for that. A country that was the destination of millions of enslaved Africans. Country what was the destination and the home of enslaved Africans, enslaved people from different parts of the world, enslaved Native Americans, where we treated people less than human, where in the Constitution, enslaved people weren't even considered citizens and were only considered 3/5 of a human for purposes of tallying representation in Congress. We've not learned very much, have we? And with this administration, we are going backwards. You know that. But the depth to which we are going backwards is beyond fathomable. It just is. And I got to just tell you, it sickens me. It does. I believe in the goodness of America, of Americans, but not in the goodness of our leaders. What they're doing, as I said in the earlier segment, to the military and what they're doing to our country, it's just all the more reason you have to get out and vote in November. All right, well, listen, we've got to take a break, but I want to do a big shout out to our affiliates. Of course, WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle, and BAM! Blue Amp Media, blueamp.com on Substack. Just please. And of course, you're listening to me, Ellie Krug, the host of Legal Trans Woman on AM 950. We'll be back after the break, and I've got somebody to come in and talk about Trump's speech on Wednesday night. Listening to me, Ellie Krug. Thanks.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. I've been telling you about Snap Construction, the company AM 950 trusts for all roofing and siding needs. Now that spring is here and summer is around the corner, now is a great time to find out why AM 950 trusts Snap Construction. Ryan, the owner, and his team at Snap Construction have been great to work with, and they have enjoyed working with our listeners.
Hi, this is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners at AM 950. What a great group of people and a great radio station. I personally want to thank all the listeners that we've had the opportunity to work with. At Snap Construction, we look forward to working with many more of you when it comes to your roofing, siding, windows, and insulation. Don't just take Chad's word for it. Google Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the Twin Cities metro. We led this community with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate. Call today, 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or visit us online, snapconstruction.com.
I'm standing up for the middle class. Tom Hartman here on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. One crew member is reported to have been rescued after a U.S. fighter jet was shot down in Iran. That's from a U.S. official and an Israeli official, both speaking on condition of anonymity. John Gambrell has more from Dubai.
A local affiliate of Iranian state television in southwest Iran said the pilot bailed out of their aircraft. Now, an anchor on that channel went on air and said that police were searching for this pilot and said that anyone who found the pilot should capture them and they would receive a reward. Earlier, though, they were telling people to shoot at the invaders.
Separately, we're being told by a U.S. official a second U.S. combat aircraft has gone down in the Middle East. Unclear if that one was shot down or whether Iran was involved. The White House is releasing details of President Trump's 2027 budget. It includes a $1.5 trillion request for defense spending, the largest in decades. The latest jobs report was out this morning. Donna Warder has it.
The Labor Department is reporting a surprisingly strong 178,000 jobs that were created in March, a rebound from a dismal February. The unemployment rate for March dropped to 4.3%. Companies have been reluctant to hire because of higher interest rates, uncertainty over President Donald Trump's policies, and not knowing how artificial intelligence will affect their businesses. Most economists say the impact of the Iran war and higher energy prices are probably not fully reflected in last month's numbers. Donna Warder, Washington.
Russian strikes on Ukraine killed at least 8 people today. Ukrainian officials report a massive missile and drone strike near the capital. And in Cuba, an outpouring of joy from families after Cuba's government said it would release more than 2,000 prisoners in what it calls humanitarian gestures in connection with Holy Week. This is AP News.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait and don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-608-0955. 800-608-0955. 800-608-0955.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit Optima.
In today's uncertain times, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces believes that a fire can add comfort and security to your life. At Woodland, our mission is to connect you to a place for fire that works.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces installed our wood stove years ago, and we still love it. Watching the fire, feeling the heat, is a joy we experience every day. And knowing we have a reliable heat source makes us feel snug and safe.
There are many choices in wood, gas, or electric. For diversity and styles, at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we display over 180 models, and 35 of these are burning displays. You can experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Whether wood, gas, or electric, find a fire that warms your heart, a fire that adds comfort and security to your life. See the many choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, located on the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis, and online at woodlandstoves.com.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces since 1977. For over 48 years, our slogan has been out of the ordinary products and services. Our mission is to get you a fireplace that works in your life.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out the restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for rain throughout today with a high near 41. Tonight, more rain with a low around 33. And Saturday, cloudy with a high around 39. For bold Szechuan and Mandarin dishes, try the Great Wall Restaurant. From sesame chicken to Peking duck, there's something for everyone that enjoys Chinese cuisine. Visit 4515 France Avenue South or call 952-927-4439 for takeout and explore their full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
And we're back with hour 2 of the Matt McNeil Show. Ellie Krug sitting in for Matt. And I am thrilled because we've got another interview, and this is an interview I really want to have today. It is with Elias Iskowitz, who is the curator of the Necessary Fiction blog. Elias is a former researcher and producer of the Ezra Klein Show and now writes about the intersection of politics and pop culture. And Elias, I wanted to have you on because you wrote this blog post titled, "This is What Losing Sounds Like," comparing Donald Trump's speech on Wednesday night with the speech by the fictional president in the Civil War movie that came out a couple of years ago. I think Nick Offerman plays the president, and he gives a speech at the start of that movie. I love that movie, and unfortunately, it seems to be so relevant every day we go forward. Elias, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you. What motivated you, to write the piece? And then give us a little bit of the background about what points you tried to make in the piece, because it's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Well, when I was listening to President Trump's address about the Iran war, I did not expect it to be a high point of presidential oratory or anything like that, but I was still taken aback by the extent to which he seemed to be speaking to an audience of basically no people who did not already believe in him, that it wasn't an attempt at persuasion, which is famously kind of, political scientists will say is the president's greatest power, is the power to persuade, that it was really just another example of something that's been true of Trump throughout his presidencies, which is that he communicates with the American people not like a president, but more like a aspiring or imagined dictator who just repeats raw propaganda in the hopes that it will not so much, as I said, get through to anyone who doesn't agree with him already, but will, reinforce the alternative reality of those followers he has who are going to be with him to the end. And it reminded me of the film because, for folks who haven't seen, I won't obviously give the whole recap, but basically the president in Civil War is someone who is, I believe he's in his 4th term. He's an authoritarian leader. He clearly lacks legitimacy. And as the film begins, he's giving a speech about some supposed, historic victory, the likes of which the world has never seen before. It's clear rather immediately that he is not telling the truth. And what really kind of made the connection in my mind was, as you probably noticed as well, Trump's repetition throughout his address of phrases like, the world's never seen this before, the likes of which we've never seen before, history making, just sort of, turning the propaganda to 11. And I just saw a very clear parallel between a fictional president who is losing and trying to compensate by speaking like a totalitarian, and our current president who seems to think that he can get through a disaster of his own making using the same tactics.
Well, and you write in your blog piece that, Trump doesn't seem to understand that both parties in a war can lose, because with Trump, everything is about winning, right? I mean, why he's going after his political enemies is because he wants to win, because, supposedly they went after him for improper, reasons, just political reasons, all of that stuff, that he's never done anything wrong. Of course, he's never done anything wrong. You just ask him, and so him going after the political enemies and putting people in place to go after his political enemies is all about winning. He just doesn't get it about the fact that we can lose this war.
No, he doesn't, and this has been a through line throughout his whole life, and it's been exacerbated or intensified as he's been president. And the stakes are higher than another failing casino, another Trump university being shut down by the courts. This is high stakes geopolitics, and in that realm, a key thing that Trump doesn't understand, that any diplomat or statesman needs to understand, and that honestly anyone who has browsed political theory or Clausewitz or even just, basic common sense shows, anyone who remembers the experience of America in Vietnam or Iraq will show that, war is one of the realms in life where it is actually possible to have both sides lose. Trump is locked into a zero-sum mindset. He always thinks there has to be a winner and a loser. What he doesn't understand is that while we may, the U.S. may be winning in the sense of, destroying definitely destroying to a significant extent Iran's military, although it seems not at all as much as they claim. Yeah, not as much as they claim, as we had unfortunate evidence of today with, an American pilot being shot down. And my understanding is one was rescued, but one is still not. One is still in Iran. But what Trump doesn't understand is that you can win in the sense of, tactical success. You can blow up the other guy's war-making capacity. But war is about strategy. And with what Iran has done, closing the Strait of Hormuz, it has put Trump in this checkmate position where he can't recognize that he is now in a lose-lose situation. So even if Iran is degraded to whatever degree, the fact is that if Iran holds the Strait of Hormuz, which is, as your listeners probably know, something like 20% of the world's oil flows through there, that is a strategic loss for the United States. It's a situation that someone like Trump, who's used to winning things by suing his opponent into quitting or seeing victory as, well, I lost money, but the other guy lost more money than me. It's something that he just can't grasp. And it's a reason why it was a mistake, I would say, to make him president again.
You don't need to. It was not a mistake. It was a colossal mistake, not just simple a mistake. Well, and so I'm sure you saw the announcement that he wants a $1.5 trillion defense budget. And he's essentially said, which, God, I hope it shows up on every ad, campaign ad from now until, November, assuming we have elections in November, that, we can't afford childcare. We can't afford Medicare or Medicaid. What the whole country has to be is it has to be a war-making machine. I mean, isn't that even more proof of what you're just saying about him knowing that he's losing, and he just thinks that if he pours more defense dollars into, the military, not to mention about how his crony, billionaire oligarchs will get rich, but if he just pours more money into it, it's going to ensure that he wins, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And we can see that as well, in his approach to trade, his obsession with tariffs, his
Oh, yeah.
inability to understand that trade is in some ways the ultimate example of win-win. He sees everything through this prism of, just a rigid dichotomy between winners and losers. He doesn't understand the interconnected nature of anything, really. I think it's a reflection of his narcissism and his various other personality disorders that, whether it is the budget, where he can't understand that spending money not just on means of killing people, but means of lifting Americans up and means of, empowering people, ultimately has a greater net benefit than any kind of, rigid cost loss dichotomy. He just can't understand this idea that there are situations that often require seeing the world through not just a raw transaction, but through a relationship where, there can be two winners. He can only see domination and dominated.
Yeah, it's all about power, and I'm sure that he goes around thinking and telling people he's the most powerful person in the world and he can do anything he wants to. I mean, I think he's already said that he can do anything he wants to, and he'd be honored, to take Cuba. Yeah, I mean, it's just, but it's you know, on a just on a basic human level, it's sickening. And it's not what our country is supposed to be standing for.
No, and it's totally contrary to what the president is supposed to be. To go back to something I said earlier, where his conception of the presidency is that of kind of a warlord who is dominating who's dominating his foes, which is at least half of the country in his mind, and is just speaking only to his supporters. That's not what a president is supposed to be. A president is supposed to be a leader of the entire people and is supposed to conceive of the world in a holistic way and the country in a holistic way. But he is just such a limited and damaged person that he can't see anything other than through the lens of, who is being controlled and who is controlling. He just does not conceive of himself as a leader of a people. He sees himself as, the leader of a faction that is dominating its enemies.
And Elias, I didn't prep you for this question, so I hope you're good with left field. What do you think is going to take for that faction to lose its affection for Donald Trump? I mean, are they so, have we become so illiterate over on that side? Have they become so brainwashed, because you keep using the word propaganda, and thank you for doing that, because that's exactly what it is. What do you think? I mean, there are now, reports that are being backed up by investigative journalists about that actually did horrible things to at least one girl who's gone on record saying about it. What do you think it's going to take, or never?
I think that's a really good question, and I think that there's kind of a bright side and a dark side to it. I would say let's start with the bright side. The bright side is that, as you probably know and your listeners know, he's really unpopular, and he's getting more unpopular every day. His approval rating is very bad, and that is before people have really started to feel the consequences economically of this war with Iran. That said, I think that's something that we all, myself included, have had to realize or accept, is that he does have a core base, maybe something like 30% of the electorate, and these people will never leave him. But the plus side, or the positive side, to go back to what I said about polling, is that he didn't win in 2024, and he didn't win in 2016 because of those people. Those people were his foundation, but he was able to win because he drew a lot of other people who were giving him a chance, or giving him another chance, or who were kind of, weak supporters. And what we're seeing here, especially through the just disastrous transition, or a trajectory rather, of this second term, is that he is just bleeding support from anyone who's not a total true believer. So to answer your question more directly, those 30% of people who will walk into hell with him, they're never going to give up on him. I mean, I think what we can hope for is that they may drop out, because, so much of the Trump mystique is the idea of him as a winner. And if he's clearly a loser, you could imagine a lot of those voters deciding to stay home or to tune out. But what actually is going to stop him, and what I think we can put our faith in, and to go back to something you referenced earlier, it's also why we need to be very wary and cognizant of his attempts to mess with the midterms, is that, if things continue on their current trajectory, he is going to lose very badly in the midterms. And he is going to, just as he was in his first term, become a president who spends the last 2 years of his term in a sort of lame duck situation where, and to go back to what you just said about the Epstein investigations, but even more so than in the first term, the amount of, illegal, outrageous, criminal activity that his administration has engaged in just over the past year plus, it as bad as the first term was, it dwarfs it in comparison. So in all likelihood, if, knock on wood, voters put the opposition party in power, and, not only in the House, although that's key, but possibly also the Senate, we could have a kind of feedback loop where There's subpoenas, there's investigations, there's possibly even raising of criminal charges. And the idea of Trump as a loser just starts to snowball. And I think that is the best chance we have of his most diehard people, maybe not admitting they were wrong, but deciding they don't like politics anymore and dropping out.
Yeah, because they probably will never, because Trump will never admit he's a loser, ever. He'll always tell you he's a winner, even if it's a bald-faced lie. And that 30% or whatever will, continue. I mean, it just goes to the education of our electorate in a variety of ways. So, well, listen, Elias, I have so enjoyed having you on the show. You, wonderful writing. How can people find out more about your writing?
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure. They can find me at www.necessaryfictions.blog. And that's where I do work like this. And I write pretty often. So please join me and watch this disaster with me.
Okay. All right, everyone. www.necessaryfiction.blog. Okay. And Elias Isquith, thanks so very much for being on the show. I hope that this isn't the last time we ever speak to each other.
Me too. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care. Okay. Thank you. All right, listeners, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I've got more to talk with you about. I'm going to talk with you about a brave librarian who has stood up to injustice. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, filling in for Matt McNeil on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. We'll be back in a second.
Hey, it's Patrick. April showers are coming, and with them, they're bringing big savings all month long from our cleaning heroes at Zero Res. A lot of people out there understandably have held off on having their carpets cleaned during the messy winter season, but now that we're headed into the height of spring cleaning, bookings are going to start to fill up fast, so don't wait. It's time to step into a fresher, cleaner home this spring with Zero Res. Spring is a time for renewal. Let Zero Res help refresh your home with clean carpets, fresh floors, and improved air quality. Zero Res can remove winter's buildup and odors, preparing your home for the brighter days ahead. So don't wait and don't miss this deal. Right now it's buy one room of carpet cleaning, get another room of carpet done for free for as many rooms as you want, plus $599 on a whole system air duct cleaning. This deal won't last long. Go to ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 9520-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Zero Res.
Hi, I'm Mary T. Caring for others runs deep in my family. My grandmother, Rosa, was a nurse who cared for people in their homes more than a century ago. Inspired by her compassion, my mother, Margaret, and I founded the Mary T. family of companies nearly 50 years ago. Today, we continue that legacy across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Arizona, providing senior living, assisted living with memory care, home health, hospice care, rental housing, and support for people with disabilities. Each service is personal, creative, and focuses on the unique needs of those we serve. We also believe in joy and community, which is why we opened Crooner Supper Club in Fridley, a place to celebrate life with music, laughter, and connection. At Mary T., we're proud to be a Minnesota family company rooted in compassion, inclusion, and respect, and proud supporters of AM 950 and the values that this station represents. Visit MaryTInc.com to learn more.
Congratulations to Mary T, named one of the most admired CEOs of 2026 by the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal.
With Easter coming, Popped Corn, that's Popped corn.com, has all the flavors to put a smile on everyone's face. Popped Corn has many delicious flavors to choose from, like cheese made with real cheese, caramel, kettle corn, cinnamon toast, or try one of their great mixes like Windy City, featuring cheese and caramel. Their new flavor of the month is everything but the bagel, and they can ship their popcorn across the USA. Go to poppedcorn.com, enter the discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at popcorn, Popped corn.com.
Hi, this is Frank Brown with Minuteman Press Uptown. It's election season. If you're campaigning for a candidate, your outreach needs top quality union printed materials, from direct mail and yard signs to door hangers, buttons, t-shirts, and flyers. Minuteman Uptown is your union shop to get people to the polls. We print everything. We'll keep your candidate top of mind, target your message with a laser focus, and maximize your voter turnout efforts. Get started today at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
We're back. The Matt McNeil Show. Ellie Krug sitting in for Matt. Okay, I've got a story for you. It is about a librarian, Luann James, who is the librarian at the Rutherford County Library System in Rutherford in Tennessee. I think it's Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And she last week was ordered to remove more than 100 LGBTQ plus theme books from the children's section of the library. Now, the library board ordered her to move the books from the children's section to the adult section. And Luann James said no. She is, she's the head librarian for the county system. And she said no, she wouldn't do that because it was unconstitutional. She felt that it was against all the principles of the Library Association that she belongs to, against the ethics of the library, professional library association, the against the ethics of being a librarian. And she said she wasn't going to do it. And in a story reported by Camelia Barris on WPLN on March 31st, there was another hearing. Okay, so they had the first hearing. Luann James said, I'm not moving the books. It's a violation of rights. It's wrong. I'm not going to do it. So they had a hearing. I think it was on the 31st, where the library board, it was a public hearing, by the way, where people could speak, where the library board voted 8-3 to fire Luann James. And not only did they vote to fire her, but then they had the audacity to force her to get up and escort her out of the building. Now I've seen the picture. There were dozens and dozens of people at this hearing. They started shouting as she was being escorted out, "We stand with Luann. We stand with Luann." One man said this was all about erasing, queer people. And I've just got to tell you, this story has caught my attention. If you're a listener on the Illegal Trans Woman, my regular show, I talked about this show last week, and I said I will follow it for you and come back. Did not have time to talk about it as I prepared the show this week, so I'm getting it in at Matt McNeil. But I am a huge believer in our librarians, because they are the last keepers of the truth. They are the last people when it all goes away, when the authoritarian regime trickles down all the way. They will be the last place. They will be the last people to keep the truth for America. And so it does not surprise me that Luann James was willing to fight. Okay, it did not surprise me one bit at all. And I have my hat off to her, and I would love to have her on my show, The Illegal Trans Woman, to talk with her about her bravery, and we'll see what I can do about that. I'll give my assignment to Brett, my producer, see if we can find her. But I've just got to tell you, I want you to remember her name, Luann James, from the Rutherford County Library System. Okay, just remember her. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to have the great Lee Finke on to talk about Minnesota politics, particularly about what happened during No Kings 3 in St. Paul. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, sitting in for Matt McNeil on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Hey everyone, it's Ellie Krug, the host of The Legal Trans Woman, that airs on Saturdays at 3 o'clock. I want to tell you about wonderful Big Hill Books, which recently hosted a discussion about my new book, Being Ellen, I had never been to Big Hill Books before, and wow, let me just tell you, it's a lovely open space of blonde wood floors, popping colors, and thousands of titles for readers of all ages. And Beth, the store owner, is incredibly welcoming. So please stop by Big Hill Books in Minneapolis, Bryn Mawr neighborhood. It's a place where you read, think, grow.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, this is Chad from AM950. I've been telling you about Snap Construction, the company AM950 Trust for all roofing and siding needs. Now that spring is here and summer is around the corner, now is a great time to find out why AM950 trusts Snap Construction. Ryan, the owner, and his team at Snap Construction have been great to work with, and they have enjoyed working with our listeners.
Hi, this is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners at AM 950. What a great group of people and a great radio station. I personally want to thank all the listeners that we've had the opportunity to work with. At Snap Construction, we look forward to working with many more of you when it comes to your roofing, siding, windows, and insulation. Don't just take Chad's word for it. Google Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the Twin Cities metro. We led this community with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate. Call today, 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or visit us online, snapconstruction.com.
Birthdays are milestones. Birthdays can also be really complicated. The funny and poignant Broadway hit Birthday Candles by Noah Hadel is receiving its area premiere at Sidekick Theater from April 15th through May 17th. Every year, Ernestine bakes a cake and celebrates with her family on her birthday, a delicious ritual that unfolds on stage across 90 years of birthdays as she grows from 17 to 107 years old. Through glimpses of her life as the years go by, Birthday Candles tenderly explores motherhood, family, love, loss, and finding your place in the universe. If you've never been, Sidekick Theater performs at the Minnesota Masonic Heritage Center in Bloomington. There are 3 matinees and 1 evening performance per week. Beautiful theater, free parking, professional actors, and a guaranteed good time. Get tickets by going to sidekicktheater.com, spelled R-E, sidekicktheater.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for rain tonight with a low around 33, Saturday cloudy with a high near 39, and Sunday sunny with a high around 47. Enjoy authentic Chinese favorites at the Great Wall Restaurant. From hot and sour soup to sesame chicken and even their delicious Peking duck, you'll find it at the Great Wall Restaurant. Visit them at 4515 France Avenue to experience their full selection and learn more at greatwallrestaurant.us. That's greatwallrestaurant.us.
AM 950 KTN up, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
And we're back. The Matt McNeil Show. Ellie Krug sitting in for the great Matt McNeil. And I'm thrilled because I have the great Lee Finke here on the line with us to talk about all things related to LGBTQ plus trans people at the Minnesota State House and in Minnesota. Lee, welcome. It's great to have you. Great to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ellie. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for giving of your time. I just really appreciate it. Now, am I right that you were at the No Kings rally on Saturday in St. Paul?
You are right. Yes, I spoke at the No Kings rally. It was a pretty incredible experience.
Tell me about it. It's one of the reasons I want to have you on. By the way, I heard great things about your speech. And just tell us, what was the atmosphere like? And what was the crowd like? And did you get to meet Bruce? And
I did not. That was one of the reasons I went. No, I mean, honestly, they asked me before he was even on the bill, right? That was kind of a late piece of news. And I went with my wife and my daughter, and we had a really great time. We did not get to meet Bruce Springsteen, but we were close to him, I mean, we were back there and, he responded to our waves and shouts. But we never had a one-on-one little moment. which is okay. He's Bruce Springsteen. What are you going to do? It was amazing to be there. I mean, when we walked through the kind of like speaker's entrance and you kind of got to look out over the Capitol grounds. I mean, it was astonishing how many people were there. I mean, I know that there's some dispute whether it was 100 or 200,000 people. Either way, I've never seen that many people in one place before. And it was just a remarkable, it was a remarkable thing to see and to be a part of. And then, we were backstage for the program, so we didn't really get to have the experience of being with the people through it. But still, we watched it from the back, and it was amazing. The lineup was incredible. It was an honor to be able to be a part of it. And, and I made my remarks about trans liberation and how our community is here and needs the support and protection of others. And I think it was well received. So all around a really great experience.
And I should have introduced you a little bit more formally. You are a representative of District 66A in the Minnesota House of Representatives. You are heading towards the sunset of your second term in the House, running again for a third term.
Mm-hmm.
And you happen to be the very first, transgender person ever elected to the Minnesota legislature, at least that we know of. And you are an icon for our community. You helped formulate this LGBTQ plus caucus, or helped to support it a great deal. And so tell us what's going on in the State House right now, as it may affect queer people, LGBTQ plus people, and particularly maybe trans folks. What are they up to this year with bills and attempts to marginalize? I guess that's the only way to ask.
That's the conversation, right? I was elected in 22 as the first trans woman. There were 2 non-binary people who were elected alongside of me, and that first term, we got so much done, and I feel really grateful that we had that chance now that we are living in this time, right? When people ask me, well, what do we need to do to protect trans people? I can feel confident and say, we don't really have to do anything except for hold the line, right? We did what we had to do. There's more, obviously, always to be done. But this year, the story at the Capitol is really one of protecting what we've won, right? And, we're not really at risk of losing anything because we still have the governor's office. We know we're not going to have anything rolled back. But the climate, the national conversation, the social conversation, the cultural movement has been declining so quickly that I think it's really important for those of us, the LGBTQ caucus, especially the queer caucus, to be speaking out, to be proud of what we have done, to stand for it vocally, right? Like we are not only are we not repealing or going backwards, but we don't regret this. We are a state that has committed itself to the protection of LGBT people of all ages, and we are proud of that work. So, when I think about what we need to do at the Capitol, and, they've been doing what they always do, right? They being the Republicans. And so it's our responsibility to stand strong and to make sure that when we get the trifecta back next year, we are all still here and that we are still legislating from a position of queer liberation and, the support of all those around us, right? Queer people are in every community and every community needs the same rights. And so we are just ready to go when we get that chance again.
Well, that's really great to hear. Of course, as you say, we've got to pay attention to what's going on in the country. And on Transgender Day of Visibility, we have the Supreme Court, throwing a case back to the district court, but we know how that's going to go as it relates to conversion therapy, about trying to regulate conversion therapy. And that ultimately is going to have some repercussions for us across here in Minnesota. But also, we've got the Supreme Court that's going to decide the two sports trans athlete cases in June. They're not going to come out favorable to our community. I'm positive of that. And so, what conversations have you had with fellow legislators, or with administration, or with legal folks about how to best prepare the state for the day where it may be that we can't protect our trans athletes,
Yeah.
and it may be that we can't protect our queer kids in therapy.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the thing that we're doing right now. Trans and gay and queer advocates around the country are gearing up for the outcomes of this court, right? And, we know where it's going. We can feel it. We can see it. We can predict it. But once it gets here, it's going to be different. And we need to be preparing ourselves as a community, but also individually. The protection of healthcare has been primary. Continuity of care for people who have current access to gender affirming care, to take that back is monstrous. For the idea that people who've been living in a world where they are protected from conversion therapy, that they can be forced back into that space, is monstrous. We really need to fortify ourselves and our communities, because we're going to be up against it, right? I mean, the sports situation in Minnesota it's always been, since 2015, we have been an inclusive state when it comes to youth sports. It's never been a problem. We've never had an issue until people were told that this is an issue. And we won the Supreme Court case in Minnesota just this summer, in J.C. Cooper case. And, we don't need to be doing what we're doing. But I am talking to everybody that I can, including the governor's administration, although we'll be getting a new governor because Governor Walz is not running again. So we got to start having conversations with whoever might be our next governor, and I've started trying to have conversations with her, because I think we need to have her ready to be protecting our communities.
Yep. But she's also a big advocate and protector. So.
Right. I mean, I'm not having those conversations because I'm worried. I just want her ready to go, But then, the legislative space, once the Hecox ruling, once we get the sports ruling and the conversion therapy ruling is sort of sorted out through the lower courts, the landscape is really shifting quickly. We're getting the Medicare, Medicaid services rules are going to come out and shift what it looks like to provide care to minors. I try not to just say, well, it's going to be rough for a while, but it's going to be rough for a while. And we are fortifying, we are turning ourselves towards community and mutual aid and alternative models of care, because that's what I think a lot of folks are going to be looking at. And we'll still be well situated in Minnesota comparatively. But it's going to be tough.
Well, I'm on my local school board out in Carver County. And we just passed a referendum that allows us to hire a couple more school counselors. And I'm just thinking is there any talk about providing additional funds for us to get social workers into the community, to get people who are, going to be because people are going to need to have someone to talk to with all the stuff coming down. That includes Ellie Krug. And is there any movement to start talking about setting up a network and maybe putting some dollars into a network that could be supportive? I mean, I know that we already have organizations out there doing the work, but they're already overtaxed as it relates to therapists and social workers.
Yeah. No, so yes, there are networks, or mostly organic at this time, right? Because legislation is just not an option. We won't move anything. But when it comes to next term, so when we get the trifecta back, I think that we already know a few things that we have to catch up, right? We need to make some updates to Trans Refuge. We need to make some updates, around how we protect access to healthcare and how we protect patients in conversion therapy. But there are a lot of other education pieces, especially in the ed committees, where we really want to be tightening up protections for people in school and also thinking about how we can ensure that nobody is being forgotten in places like that, right? I know that more and more schools do have social workers, do have therapists, and we need to be thinking that way. You know, we need to be preparing for, I think, a short to medium period here where we need everything on the table.
Okay. Well, Lee, I've got to watch. I could talk to you all day. I've got to watch my time.
Yeah.
And but thank you for coming on the show. I am just really grateful that you've done that and given of your time. Will you please know if there's anything I can do to help? Okay. Please feel free to reach out to me if you need something communicated, or you want to come and talk about an issue that you don't think is getting the right kind of press. Give me a call and we'll get you on the show. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. And, this has been kind of a hard conversation, but we will overcome. This will pass. We're going to be okay.
We are very resilient people.
That's right.
We have a lot of grit. We have a lot of resiliency. We do.
Yeah.
And we all deserve to live as who we are.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for coming on. All right, everyone. That was the great Lee Finke here talking about things going on at the State House and what may be down the pike. Thank you so very much, Lee. All right. We're going to take a break. And everyone, when I come back, I've got a couple of other stories I want to share with you. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, on the Illegal Trans Woman. No. Filling in for Matt McNeil. There you go. Brett's over there laughing at me. Ellie Krug.
Bound to happen one time at least.
Yes, it would. Filling in for Matt McNeil. We'll be back in a sec.
Hi, this is Richard Chu, host of Chu's Views, broadcast live from Chicago and starting Monday, April 6th, available every weekday morning from 6 to 8 a.m. here on AM 950. Chu's Views is a pragmatic radio show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward. Join me, Richard Chu, for Chu's Views, starting Monday, April 6th, 6 to 8 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
What if I told you that toxic pesticides from crop seeds and lawns have spread all over Minnesota's lands and water, devastating wildlife and posing risks to our health? Well, it's true. But a coalition of Minnesota farmers, community members, anglers, and more are taking action to protect our state from neurotoxic pesticides. To learn more and get involved, visit cleanerseed.org. That's cleanerseed.org. And tune to Food Freedom Radio.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, our job is to help you find a place for fire. Our displays include over 180 models in diverse styles, and we have over 35 burning displays. Come and experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Some say there are only two seasons in Minnesota: road construction and winter. Hi, this is Laura, and I agree there are two seasons in Minnesota: summer and fireplace season. I bought my wood stove for Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces in 2005, and every season after summer comes the time when we fire up the wood stove, get out our favorite music, and discover the warmth of fire. Our dog Pumpkin remembers the fire too. He stations himself right there, legs up in the air, just enjoying the warmth of the fire. With the wood stove, we are able to keep the main area of the house toasty warm, while the thermostat is set at an energy-efficient 64 degrees. Discover your fireplace season. Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
With Easter coming, Popped Corn, that's Popped corn.com, has all the flavors to put a smile on everyone's face. Popped Corn has many delicious flavors to choose from, like cheese made with real cheese, caramel, kettle corn, cinnamon toast, or try one of their great mixes like Windy City, featuring cheese and caramel. Their new flavor of the month is everything but the bagel, and they can ship their popcorn across the USA. Go to poppedcorn.com, enter the discount code MATT to get 10% off your order. That's discount code MATT at popcorn, Popped corn.com.
Hey everyone, it's Ellie Krug, the host of The Illegal Trans Woman here on lovely AM 950. Now, you know our show is about advocating for transgender and non-binary people. And let me tell you, in the political climate that's going on right now, we have a lot to talk about. I have exciting news. Effective immediately, our show is moving to 3 o'clock on Saturdays on AM 950. Plus, you'll always be able to find it on podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. So join me, The Illegal Trans Woman, 3 o'clock Saturdays. And we're back. Ellie Krug subbing for Matt McNeil on the Matt McNeil Show. And I just need to do a shout out to BAM, Blue Amp Media at blueamp.com on Substack. They are a great organization, and they're helping Matt McNeil get the word out on his show. All right, everyone. You obviously don't get to hear from me very often, and certainly please check out my show, The Illegal Trans Woman, if you are an ally of trans people or if you happen to be trans. It's one of the relatively few shows on the radio and podcast advocating for trans people. But I want to ask you a question, all right? When you go out, to, say, the mall, or you go out to, well, we just were talking about Target, or you go out to Walmart, or you go out to a restaurant, or you go out to maybe even Big Hill Books, you go out someplace, do you ever need to use maybe the restroom? Just, as you drank too much coffee on the way to where you're going, or whatever, or you're at a restaurant and you've had a couple of coffees or a couple of maybe drinks, and you know what? I got to go use the restroom. I mean, it goes without saying that being able to use public restrooms is just sort of a necessary function of being a human, regardless of being an adult or child or whatever. It's a necessary function. And can you imagine if somebody came to you and said, you can't use the restroom in this restaurant or Target or wherever. And in fact, if you do use the restaurant, we're going to arrest you. Now, can you, what, who would ever, how, no, what? That's kind of crazy, isn't it? And yet, I just got done talking to Lee Finke about the darkness. That's the darkness that's descending across America right now as it relates to my community, transgender people who are non-binary, identify neither as male or female, may have an ambiguous appearance about themselves. Right now, as I speak to you, there are 4 states in the country that ban transgender people from using public facilities like the airport restrooms or the restrooms at the government center, or you're in the courthouse and you have to go for your divorce, okay, and I need to use the restroom because this is too stressful, okay. Right now in 3 states, Utah, Florida, and Kansas, transgender people cannot use restrooms without the risk of being arrested. I mean, there are a number of, I don't know, there may be 20 states that ban transgender people with, rules or laws that say you can't use public facilities like courthouses, the airport, okay? But Utah, Florida, and Kansas until this week were the only states that had criminal bans. And Kansas's law just came into effect last month, SB 244, which essentially says that you can be arrested, but only after essentially you've been asked to leave and you don't leave, okay? Well, Idaho, I mean, the bastion of, individualism, okay? You think about Idaho, rugged people, rugged individual, leave them alone. Idaho has now passed a law, House Bill 752, which makes it a criminal offense for any transgender person to use either a public or a private restroom in that state. So go to the, you're at the restaurant, I need to use the restroom. No, it's illegal for Ellie Krug to do that. And not only is it illegal, but I can be arrested. And the first offense, I'm in the restroom. Somebody says, hey, I know that's Ellie Krug, even though I pretty much look female. Okay. I don't ever speak with this voice in a restroom. Trust me. But somebody says, hey, I know that Ellie Krug's in there and she's a transgender person. Say I go to Idaho and speak. Okay. And somebody doesn't like me. I could be arrested, and it's a 1-year potential prison sentence. 1 year. We're not like, and that's just the misdemeanor. Okay. And then if I use the restroom twice, say I went once, okay, somebody's keeping track, and then I went twice, a second time, I could be charged with a felony. And that's 5 years in prison. And apparently Idaho has this, 3 strikes and you're out law. And so if I did it 4 times, I could be in prison for life. Now you tell me why. There can't be in Idaho, there can't be more than, oh my God, maybe 2,000 transgender people in the whole state. Maybe that might actually be really high. I don't know. Why? Potentially, purportedly, it's to protect, women and girls in restrooms. I just got to tell you something, okay? There's actually no record of a transgender person ever assaulting a woman or a girl, transgender woman assaulting a genetic woman or a genetic girl in a restroom. There's no record of that anywhere. And frankly, all that people want to do is go do their business, wash their hands, get the heck out of there. That's all that people want to do. I ask women who are afraid about this. The very first thing I ask them, when's the last time you saw the color of another woman's underwear in a restroom? And they're like, never. I'm like, yeah. Okay. It's not like people are going to peer in at you. It's not like anybody. No, it's just, but they see fit to do this. And you have to understand, okay, this is, as Lee and I were talking about, this is the movement to become more draconian, to become more controlling, to find more ways to force us not to be in public. Because if you can't use a restroom in a public place, you can't go out. Okay, you just can't. But that is literally appears to be the goal. And I've just got to tell you, it's scary. Now, most of you, you'd be like, you don't have to worry about a single thing related to this. But right now, I fly to the airport. I, have to transit through the Salt Lake City International Airport, which I've done multiple times. In theory, I use the women's restroom. I'm committing a crime and I could be arrested. This is just absolutely crazy. Okay, well, so if you're an ally of my community, please pay attention to this stuff. Please. There's a wonderful trans blogger by the name of Erin Reed. Erin in the Morning is the name of her blog, Erin, Erin in the Morning, or Erin Reed, REED. Follow her. She'll keep track of all the news that you need to know about trans and non-binary people. Okay, well, this has been quite the stint for me. Because I taped one of my shows, The Illegal Trans Woman, and because I've been here for 2 hours for Matt McNeil, I've been doing nearly 3 hours. Well, I've done 3 hours of radio. My goodness. Okay. I hope that it's been all right for you. I've enjoyed it. And big thanks to my producer, Brett, who always keeping me in tune. And to you, my listeners, maybe I'll come back and sub for Matt again. We'll see if he asks me. But I wish you the very best, okay? The weekend is coming up. I hope you get to take advantage of it, although it's not sounding very good in Minnesota. But go out and do something good for another person as well as for yourself. Ellie Krug, over and out.
Greg Bakken here. If you're craving something delicious, Eat Local Minnesota is here to spotlight amazing local places you're going to want to try right away. Step back in time and experience classic nightlife at Crooner Supper Club, 4-star drinks and entertainment all in one place. Enjoy incredible performances on the main stage in the Dunsmore Jazz Room. You can even unwind in Maggie's Lounge. Find your perfect concert experience at croonersmn.com. Crooner Supper Club, where old school charm meets modern nightlife. Or how about a delicious French dessert? Discover macarons like you've never tasted before at Nicolette Macarons in Plymouth. Pick up a box of elegant French macarons conveniently located off Highway 169. Perfect for gifts, corporate events, or just for yourself. Stop in and order online at nicolettesmacarons.com. These are just a couple of great restaurants Minnesota has to offer. I'll be sharing more with you soon. And remember, when you eat local, Minnesota.
Come on, you know it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. One crew member of a U.S. fighter jet has been rescued, but another remains missing after their plane was downed in Iran today. Lisa Dwyer has details.
The U.S. military has confirmed that an American aircraft was shot down in Iran, marking the first loss of an American aircraft in Iranian territory during the 5-week war. According to a U.S. and an Israeli official, one crew member has been rescued. Social media footage showed American drones, aircraft, and helicopters flying over the mountainous region. Tehran is keeping up the pressure on Israel and its Gulf Arab neighbors and has fired on a range of targets across the Middle East today. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
And we've learned a second plane has gone down. Iranian state media reports a U.S. A-10 attack aircraft crashed into the Persian Gulf. Neither the status of the crew nor exactly where was immediately known. The UN Security Council is expected to address the situation. Secretary General Antonio Guterres raising an alarm.
We are on the edge of a wider war that would engulf the whole Middle East with dramatic impacts around the globe. The conflict is already being felt everywhere. When the Strait of Hormuz is strangled, the world's poorest and most vulnerable cannot breathe.
And he appealed to the U.S., Israel, and Iran.
I remain in close contact with the parties, and I'm dispatching my personal envoy, Jean Arnaud, to the region to support these efforts. We must find a peaceful way out.
Meantime, the White House released details of President Trump's 2027 budget. It includes a $1.5 trillion request for defense spending, the largest in decades. He's also calling for a 10% cut in non-defense discretionary spending. And in sports, Duke freshman forward Cameron Boozer is the AP Men's College Basketball Player of the Year. UConn star sophomore Sarah Strong, the Women's Player of the Year. This is AP News.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people